keep being too caught up by all my demons, lost without the love, and I'm a slave to...
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Total Villain YouTube channel. It's me, it's not Liam today, I'm filling in for him while he's on holiday. You might have seen me doing other shows with him on this channel, but very excited to say that today, joining our post-season review, talking about the season as a whole, as well as the ending of it and that dramatic final day against West Ham. I'm joined by former Aston Villa player, Garry Thompson. So Gary, how are you, mate?
I'm very good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. How are you finding lockdown with all these new rules that are opening up and allowing us more things to do?
Well, now it's opened up. I mean, the masks coming in, it does seem a bit late in the day for everyone to start wearing masks and that, because I thought it would have been straight away. But we got to get used to it. You know, if we want to get out there and make money again and do stuff, we're going to have to get used to it. Hopefully, the thing will come to an end soon where we'll be getting back to a kind of normal. So just looking forward to that, really.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to is hopefully getting football fans back in grounds, because, I mean, if they were in grounds for that survival day, I think the Villa fans would have had a great time over in London. Yeah. I mean, with the nerves, the elation. What did you make of the last day? What did you make of our performance against West Ham in the end?
I thought, initially, I thought the performance was a little bit slow. We were slow to move the ball. I kept feeling, and Rigo was saying the same thing, that if West Ham had scored, and I think Antonio had a chance after 15 minutes, and it was a great opportunity where he's put it wide. If they scored a goal then, it didn't look like we could raise ourselves. It's almost like we put so much into the Arsenal game that it was going to be hard to raise ourselves again. Anyway, we've just kept going. We've kept going. In the end, we did come out a lot better second half. We started the second half very brightly, and then obviously getting the goal. The joy of that goal was smashed within about 2 minutes with the equaliser coming off Jack as well. But then you're just hanging on. You can hear the results. I mean, I think Watford were 3-0 down. We said, well, that's it. They're completely out of it. Then it's 3-1. Then it's 3-2. And then you think, oh, hang on a minute. And you're just worried now, thinking like, because you know Bournemouth have won. I always fancied them to get something at Everton. Like, I didn't realise it would be so convincingly. But having seen the goals as well, by the way, Pickford's going to have a long look at himself. But I mean, I just on the balance, it all worked out. With the fans there, it would have been fantastic. I turned up yesterday and there's a couple of Villa fans outside the ground. I met a couple of Villa fans off the train as well. So there were a few boys down there as well. Not strange, but because you can watch it in your telly, but they felt they had to be close to the action.
Yeah, and it's a bit weird to see fans out there. I guess it's obviously not supposed to do that, and we don't encourage that. But I mean, with the last day, I mean, there's no other time to do it. Let's be honest. I agree with you. I don't think we were great, especially in the first half. I know that Dean Smith said like he gave a rousing team talk at halftime. We really, gave them a bit of a bollocking, to be honest, and it really roused them up second half. And then obviously Jack's moment of magic. And it reminded me of the Brighton goal, the way that he just sort of checked it onto his left and then just smashed it home. And then obviously
to be fair, I mean. Yeah, he had to give them a rollicking, as it were, because the game was, they were just playing the game out. They were playing a game of football with no real intent. And we seemed to be drawn into that as well. And you kept thinking, well, if there's another goal in this, if they claw their way back, all of a sudden we've got to really raise our game for the last 15, 20 minutes. Or if West Ham score a goal, then we've got to go again. So it's best to just finish it early. So I'm thinking, get the goal, and then we've got something to hang on to or battle for. But fair play to Dean, because I said to Rigo, was going at half time, if I was him, I'd get steaming into them now, because you could almost see, you don't want to be sitting there in the dressing room at the end of the full time going, oh, if only we'd have done this, if only we'd have done that. And everything's come down to that last second half when all the results have gone against you. Because we were relying on other results. All of a sudden it worked out in our favour again. We was in charge of it again. And to let it go again would have been criminal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the big things is that we didn't concede that first goal that you alluded to there. If we'd have had conceded that first goal late in the first half, and that probably would have kept Bournemouth in the league ahead of us. But just Jack's moment of magic, I think, really did us a massive favour. And in terms of Project Restart, sort of going back over the last few games especially, I mean, 3 players that I think have stood out since the restart. Trezeguet obviously has come up with a lot of important goals. I don't think his general play is tons better, but, you can't knock someone who's scoring goals. Then obviously the main one, Douglas Luiz, and even Ezri Konsa as well. So how refreshing is it to see some players who haven't really had the best start to the season sort of come into their own? And isn't that a good sign for next season?
A very good sign. I mean, like I was saying after to Frank saying that, you can't get, because we stayed up, we can't get too sentimental and say, oh, well, this team can go again with a couple of additions, we can do this and that. There are obviously a lot of things wrong. We didn't get outplayed by too many teams. We played some nice footballing parts, but the core wasn't strong enough. We were too naive at times. We gave away silly goals. We couldn't defend, look after, manage a game from a winning position. And then we couldn't chase games at times as well. Douglas Luiz, for me, before the lockdown, was symptomatic of a lot of the problems. Good ability, looked a very good player, no concentration, no discipline. After lockdown, restart, come back, I thought he was superb. I felt he was the best one out of all of them. And Dean, I didn't know, but Dean said he turned up 2 days before the season started. So obviously, he's always playing catch-up. And then when you put it in that context, you can understand how it's took him this time to sort of catch up with everybody. But I think Conor Hourihane said he now understands the man on thing. Like, then you can see why. Was it Bournemouth first home game of the season where he's done the over? Let it go, could have scored, and you're like, in a minute. But then he scores a worldie. Like, so he's got problems. He's coming, and he's got better. I mean, like you say, Trezeguet for me. I liked him when I first saw him. Worked hard, but seemed to be a bit of a Neely man. Was going to get the odd goal, not going to get enough goals. Yeah. Finishing wasn't brilliant at times, but I think scoring against Leicester helped his confidence no end, getting the winning goal there. And then all of a sudden, the vital games, because it didn't look like we could score a goal. We tightened up defensively, but it didn't look like we had a goal in us. And for him to score the goals he has done, I think you've got to give him a chance again next season. Like, I mean, I honestly believe we have to get better in our wide areas as well. We need a centre forward in here. We need a striker in here who can score goals. Wesley, I was just saying on the radio, we had 26 goals last season. We lost 26 goals because Tammy goes back. We've gone up a level, and we bought a kid who's 22, learning his trade as the main man, but we've not got any competition for him. So if it doesn't go well, we've got no fallback. And I think that was criminal. And the fact that January the 1st, the same thing that happened. In fact, Wesley hadn't got injured. I think we might have just tried to soldier on. So Wesley getting injured, we had to bring in Samatta, who started quite brightly, disappeared a little bit. But Konza, I think, has done very, very well. He looked a decent player, just didn't play enough games. But he's filled in at right back. He's filled in at centre back, and I think the centre back he's done very, very well. There's been a lot of pluses, but the main one for me is Dean learning from his mistakes. Exactly. The team learning and getting better defensively, and actually seeing out the last 8 minutes of the game yesterday as well. You can see them doing things. You think, they're learning, because we're going to need that next year.
Exactly. And I mean, the way that we held on to the Arsenal result was symptomatic, I think, of how we've improved over the season. Like, if you compare that to the Liverpool at home game or the Tottenham away game, or even the Arsenal away game, we had the lead and we didn't know how to manage it. But against Arsenal, even though they were trying to put us under more pressure, we held them back, we contained, we found that balance between sitting back and inviting pressure, which is a bad thing, but also we didn't open up too much and go too gung-ho, because then they would have ripped us apart. So I just think the game management side from Smith especially has really, really improved at the end of the season. So again, that's a real indicator going into next season. But looking into the season as a whole then, because obviously Project Restart was the better bit where we've improved our defence and we've got a result against a side like Arsenal. I mean, I think the first thing I want to bring on, the first thing we had to do is recruit. We had an absolute shell of a squad when we came up, but in hindsight now of the season, how do you feel our recruitment was as a whole? Do you think that someone like Suso, should his position be considered, or has he done enough? Has the players done enough to justify his continuation of the club, do you feel?
No, I don't think they have. I mean, I think that he's brought in some players of talent, but also as a manager, your job is to gel them players. I think that the quality of player we're offered, and obviously because we weren't in the playoffs, it was always going to be late in the day. So we're going to be like late to the queue to get anybody. So therefore, the better ones will have gone, or the more obvious targets will have gone. So I just think that if Dean loses games, his position under scrutiny, people are on him. Yeah. Suso brought players in to help him and Perslow to assist Dean in his job. Most fans will say the same things. They've been very good in parts, they've been very average in parts, they've been poor in parts. Are they worth another go? Can we risk it with this group again next year, and say we lose Jack, be in the same situation again? I think we have to improve. I think everyone's under scrutiny all the time, and I just think Suso, these players that come in, you've got to look at them and say, well, if you look at El Ghazi, has he done enough to warrant being a starter out wide for us next season? I don't think so. Louise, yes. Now, Nakamba, jury's out. So you could go through, when you start getting 3, 4, 5 of them, then obviously the recruitment's not been good enough. Not even the recruitment, the model, which is obviously to buy cheap and obviously the Moneyball thing and sell players on for more money. At the minute, we're not bringing in the right quality to develop to sell for a lot more money. So we have to look at that.
Yeah, and I agree completely. The thing is with Suso, it wasn't like when we were being linked with players like Said Benrahma, who had like 10 goals and like 5 assists in like his first season in England. We were signing players like Trezeguet. I mean, El Ghazi, even though he was here last year, he wasn't even that good last year. He just came good at the end of the season. And I just feel like we bought so many average players. I mean, Nakamba comes to mind as one that you mentioned there, who are all right, but they can't be reliable in the Premiership. And I think next season, if we really do have to go on without people like Jack Grealish, then I don't think we can run the risk of doing it again, because I think the league is going to be a lot harder to stay in next year with someone like Leeds coming up and whoever else joins them in the league, like West Brom. So I think we can't take the risk under Suso again. And I think Smith would probably do a better job if he had an even greater input on transfers, because he had that at Brentford as well. He had that at Walsall, especially, where he basically ran everything. So I feel like with Suso, you can't afford to run the risk again, because when it comes to like this logic I'm going to refer to throughout, so our ambitions, what are our ambitions going to be? Are our ambitions going to be to finish 16th and just gradually get better? Or our ambitions going to be like finishing 10th or 12th? How high do we have to aim? And we have to aim so much higher, I feel like. And under Suso, I don't think we can do that.
I think you're right. I think the standards, everything's about standards at football clubs. And you listen to Roy Keane talk about how dare Villa celebrate staying in the league, because his standards are you expect to be winning all the time. So staying in the league is not a celebration. But Roy Keane is talking from a different standard. Aston Villa have come from the Championship into the Premier League, made a lot of mistakes, but got away with it there. Of course, there's room for celebration. For me, Roy Keane's almost like the fun police. You're not allowed to have any fun at any time. You know what I mean? But they deserve to celebrate. We made a lot of mistakes. Dean was intransigent sometimes in his formations, but he's learning from it. He's learning to tweak things. Like you talk about the recruitment. The recruitment at Brentford, from what you can see now, fruition over the last 3, 4, 5 years, is now coming to bear fruit. And there's some very, very good players. Yeah. If we're going to do the same sort of thing, it might take a bit of time, and we have to be patient. But talking about ambitions, but any team goes into the Premier League, they have ambitions. Everyone says, if we finish fourth from bottom, brilliant. But now you get, no, not Norwich, but Sheffield United go into the league. Like Leeds will come into the league next year, and there's no way their ambitions are ever to be finishing fourth from bottom. They're going to try and win every game and see what next them. Now, or you look around, you look at Wolves, you look at Sheffield United, and you think, well, hang on a minute. If they can do that, and Wolves is all about good recruitment. They recruited Premier League players while they're in the Championship, go to the Premier League, they can cope. So Wolves have done it. They've done it perfectly. Sheffield United have got hard working. The sum is greater than the parts, as it were, and they've done a fantastic job. Whether they do it again next year is another thing. If we're Aston Villa and we are a massive club, then we've got to be looking at them and saying, hang on a minute, we've got to be doing something like that. So we've got to be better. We've got to be pushing on. So for me, I ain't saying be going for the Europa League and that, but we have to be. I thought this team was good enough to finish mid-table or just below mid-table. I thought this team in parts was good enough to do that, but mistakes were made, couldn't defend a lead, we're naive in our defending, and our play sometimes very open, very easy to play against. And Jack, it became very predictable because everything had to go through Jack Grealish. So we're easy to play against at times. So we have to mix it up a little bit. But talking about ambition, I come back to we're Aston Villa. We would expect to be higher than we are. Okay, we got away with this year, brilliant. But you're telling me within 3 to 4 weeks now, people won't be looking back and saying, oh, yes, they've got what a relief of that. They'll be looking at the league and saying, all right, the Leeds have come up. Okay, Sheffield United, will they be as good? And we got to be looking to mid-table, if not higher. And I just think if Sheffield United can do it, and they were a good team in the Championship, but they are an honest, hard-working crew. If they can do it, then surely we can recruit better players to push up the league and be better than we are.
Exactly. And I mean, it's in terms of the players that you speak of, I mean, who are the players that you've been most disappointed by this season? I mean, for me, I think Bjorn Engels, when he's played, he's looked good, but it seems a bit weird when he doesn't really feature that often. He's not really a favourite of Smith, is he?
Well, there's a lot of rumours. There's always rumours at football clubs about having a fallout or whatever. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of that, but when Engels came, I spoke to a scout, European scout, about him, because I'd heard Brentford looked at him and Dean quite liked him and all that. And he said to me, he's a very, very good footballer. He reads the game well. He's good on the ball, but he is very slow. Yeah. And so he said, if you don't play him in the middle of a three, anything down the sides, he's going to get torn. Now, the first 10, 12 games I'm watching, and I've seen him be caught out. And I remember chatting, and he said, yeah, well, every team you played against has played in front of you. The moment we had, I think it was Vardy at Leicester and
Ings
Shane
and
Long.
Yeah.
Yeah. The moment they turned up, all of a sudden, they put the afterburners on, it was good night. And then you see Engels Bjorn Engels chasing the ball. He's never going to get there. So, I think he's a good footballer. I think he's an accomplished footballer. But if you're going to play him in a team, you can't play him in a back four because you're going to have a problem. You play him as in a three. You have to play him in the middle. You can't play him because he's down the sides, he'll get tore. So, looks a very good player, but for the Premier League, probably not going to be the one because as the game's going on, it's more athletic. Players are fitter, quicker, stronger. And if you start off at a slow, if you're Garry slow and everyone is just quick, you got a problem.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are some players that can get away with being slow. I mean, like some players like John Terry towards the end of his career, he wasn't very quick, but he was absolutely pure class. And while Engels is a good player, he doesn't have that level of class. He doesn't have that athleticism, I don't think, to be in the Premier League. But I mean, outside of Engels, who else would you say in the squad have you looked to and been disappointed by? I mean, for me, it's someone like Anwar El Ghazi, who, we had a good end to the season last year. And he started the season quite well, but I think for most of this season now, he's looked a shadow of himself. Yeah,
El Ghazi has been, he looks what he is, probably a championship player. He can do little spells at championship, play two or three good games, but then 5 or 6 average ones and get away with it in championship. Premier League, you're called to the plate every week. You've got to produce. And he was sadly lacking. In fact, Trezeguet got better just through sheer hard work and finishing chances. He got better and El Ghazi got worse and sort of disappeared a little bit. Jack really says El Ghazi is the best finisher at the club. Still, you look at some of the things he does. He did a bit of skill. I think it was against West Brom last year, where he danced between 3 people, and you're like, oh my lord! And then he'll get a goal, and you're like, oh, how is this kid not being taken by one of the bigger clubs? And then 8 games will go by before you see him again, or he'll be ineffective in that. So for his ability, he's a disappointment. I think Nakamba came. I was told the kid had incredible energy, would set the pace, set the tempo, a bit like McGinn does in his pomp, where he wins tackles, goes chasing with the ball, and everyone's got, they got a spark of it. And Campbell's going to be a bit like that, very destructive, wins the ball, keep it simple, but energy, and could fire people up. And I just think he's been caught out, especially on the ball, in and around his own penalty box. He's given away chances because he's tried to play the wrong areas. Hopefully he'll learn, because I'm not sure how old he is. But
25, I think 26, something like that.
In that case, it might be a bit late, but that's another one that came and started off. He thought, oh, hello, but it was disappointing. Just trying to think now. The two fullbacks. I mean, I think Gilbert's been very good, shown an incredible drive and desire and wanting to win, and he will get better. His delivery into the box is not as good as it should be, but he's only a kid. He will get better. Target looks to me an attacking wing back more than a left back. Can break forward, can create opportunities. His relationship with Grealish down the left-hand side at times is fantastic. Defensively, I'd have to ask massive questions about him. So if you're going to play with Target, I'm looking maybe play wing back, because that way his defensive side's not called into question. In fact, Target for me, lovely on the ball, but the goal, I think, who ran at Everton? Who ran turns his back, cross comes at far post. Yeah. All I can go is Gary Neville, smallest man on the pitch, always backs into the centre right forward or the winger and never lets you get through it for a header. Theo Walcott's towering above him and Target's got no idea where he is. And for me, when that happens, even though you've been working defensively for weeks on end, that happens and you're like, and that could have cost us. And for me, that way, I mean, I think he's a good footballer, the kid. As a defender, probably not.
Yeah, he's had that a few times this season, though, where he's been caught ball watching and his man at the back post is always just free and can just nod it home. And I think Gilbert's better. He provides a lot more energy and a lot more desire. He's a bit more, he can drive box to box as well. But the thing is with Target, as you say, while he's good attacking, he's useless defensively. And the thing is as well, he's really slow. I don't think he's that much a quick player. So it's not like he's going to catch up with the winger or anything. It's just, once he gets skinned, he's done for on the left.
I think after it's in your mind, though, I mean, I think he's not rapid quick, but he's reasonably quick. But I think if you're slow in your mind, you see things too late. Then all of a sudden you're chasing someone who's got 3, 4, 5 yards on you. I mean, the first thing you talk to the fullback is like, stop the cross. So Gilbert's stopping the cross. If I'm the fullback, the opposite side, I know it's coming in. Now, if the centre forward doesn't get there, then obviously someone's coming over my shoulder. So I've got the first thing, my body shape, ball, man, goal, right? So where's the ball? I know where the ball is. I know where the goal is because it never moves. So where's my man? So you've got to get your body into him all the time. And the fact that he's away from you, 2 yards away from you, heading it in, you think, well, that can't keep happening. So hopefully he learns, because if he can put that defensive side together with his attacking side, you've got a player there.
Yeah. I mean, going on to sort of the managerial side, we know Dean Smith, John Terry, Richard O'Kelly. Me and Neil Cutler as well, who I think has done a fantastic job on Northern Ireland. But how do you rate Dean Smith's performance as a manager throughout the season? It's got to be said that, you know, with the whole thing going on with his dad, rest in peace, he's had to dig so deep to keep us up, I think.
I think being a Villa fan and managing Aston Villa is possibly one of the most stressful jobs you could possibly have. I think there were questions asked by his family when he got offered the job, but Dean's like any of us. We get offered the job, you'll see all the negatives, but you still want to take the job and take the thing forward. But his family worry for him, and you can see why, because this could get vile if things aren't going well. You know what I mean? And so for him to take that job on, and then, as you say, with all the things going on, and a situation where at the West Brom game where our season was done, we then go on a great run. We get into the playoffs, we win the playoffs. All of a sudden, the players are brought in. Maybe then he'll learn. Maybe he should have been stronger than with some of the players if he didn't really want them. But he moves into the season, and then, as you say, with the COVID, because we're learning, we're up and down a little bit, but we're playing a certain way. He learns what happens with COVID with his father as well. So on the balance, I think he's done ever so well with all the pressures, and especially being a Villa manager at a time when we're back in the Premier League where the intensity has never been greater as being a manager at a football club. So you'd have to say he's done a good job. I think sometimes he has to learn to be a bit more flexible in certain things, but we all make mistakes. We all do things and we say, well, that's it, that's what I'm doing. And then if you learn, next time around, you think, oh yeah, maybe I'll try it a different way, or I'll learn to, just tweak things a little bit. You cannot be like, bang, we're going to be 4-3-3, or we're going to do that week in, week out, because every team can be different. They're going to see how you play. They're going to find ways to upset you a little bit. We'll try and do this, we'll try and do that, see how they react. Substitutions as well, maybe a little bit quicker sometimes.
Yes.
Slaven Bilic, he's standing there on the side of the pitch. I was talking to the lady from BBC the other day, and I said, he feels the game. And when we talk about people that feel the game, he's watching the game, he knows something's wrong. He's picked a team, he's done all the preparation work, and usually that's where you win your games. Preparation, great, everything's gone right. 15, 20 minutes in the game, something wrong. This ain't happening, it's wrong. Bang, okay, I'm making a change. And I just think sometimes managers will wait, or let's get through to half time, let's give them 10 minutes in the second half. And a prime example of that has been the Samatta and Davies thing. Waiting, hoping it's going to work out, instead of saying, nah, this ain't right, and it's going to cost us if we leave it. Sometimes you've got to make decisions, but I think it's hard when 30,000 people are screaming at you. But then I watched the Chelsea game, and they were discussing, and I had the ump that day because our best player, our talisman, is chasing Alonso and Azpilicueta up and down the touchline. He must have covered miles that day. I'm thinking, hang on, what's the point of having him there? Because all he's doing is chasing back. Let's cause him a problem going the other way. But we had to maybe, I don't know, put Trezeguet out there, or Algazi, someone who's going to just run up and down and try and stop the cross. You can't have Jack Grealish doing that. Not against them two, because they just bomb on for fun. And so some of them decisions, obviously, Dean, they'll look at them, because they're at the debrief now. They'll look over the next couple of weeks and say what we did wrong, what we did right, and hopefully we can move on again. But on the balance, in answer to your question, 15 minutes later, I think he's done a decent job.
Yeah. I just think he's improved over the course of the season, especially in Project Restart. I mean, I personally doubt him a bit. I worry about him because I just think that over the course of the season, his game management hasn't been phenomenal. I thought against Arsenal, it was a lot better because he brought on Davis and Nakamura. Obviously, Davis, a physical striker, it's a fast out ball. It's someone to hold it up. It's someone to make the ball stick. Then Nakamura, a defensive-minded midfielder who will press, bring a bit of legs in and get a few tackles in. You know, before he'd probably make that subs at about 70, 75 minutes in when they're already, the pressure's on, and then it's a bit too late. But he was about 65 minutes. It was so much earlier and it was so much better. I was really happy to see the subs come on a bit earlier. So I think he's definitely improved over the course of the season. And he's done his remit, hasn't he? He deserves a job next. He deserves it next season, doesn't he?
I, from what I heard, I don't think there was any appetite to sack him anyway. And because he's put a lot of things in place behind the scenes as well. And my argument to that is, but if you're not winning games, people don't want to know what's going on behind the scenes. But he has put stuff in place, so this club will be a stronger club over the next few years. So fair play to him for that. He's not winning games, but we've just got through a spell now where we've done ever so well. We boxed ourselves into a corner and we've come out of it. We're still in the Premier League. If he learns, like every manager should look at what they've done, things they did good and did bad, and can we improve on that? He will learn from that. Even like you say, the Arsenal game and that Everton the week before, a couple of weeks before, They make 2 changes. They make 2 wide men. They go on, and you're looking and thinking, we've got to change it. We're getting deeper and deeper now. We're running out of legs. We've got to change it. And he waited and waited, and it was too late. A week later, bang, right.
Exactly.
The change is gone. Now that for me, as you just said, you're learning. Okay, I've been in this situation before. What happened last time? Didn't work out. Let's try this. Boom. There you go. And that's how you become a better manager. And he will. This year, as good and as bad as it's been for him at times, he'll learn so much more, because you learn more from the bad things than you do the good generally. So he will learn so much that in time, people keep saying about, well, Man United could have sacked Fergie and they didn't. And look where they are now. And most managers never get to that point, because they usually get sacked within 18 months, 2.5 years.
As well.
No, exactly. So therefore, let's be the club that gives a manager a proper chance. If it's going horribly wrong, everybody knows what could happen.
Yeah.
But he's shown us in parts that with the 10-game winning run, getting into this league and spells in this league, that he can cope. Let's give him a little run at it.
Yeah,
and give him the chance to recruit better players.
Yeah, and going on to that, actually, recruiting better players. I mean, what kinds of positions are you thinking? I mean, for me, it's strikers and wingers straight away. I don't think any of our forward line, except for Jack, is really consistently good enough for the Premier League. I'm thinking a centre midfielder, maybe someone with a bit of physicality, a bit of height, someone to win some aerial balls off goal kicks. Then a left back, because I don't think Target's quite up to it. And maybe a centre-back as well, just to add a quality defender to the ranks, especially if Engels and these rumours are true. Maybe, if they're true, then maybe a centre-back just to come into the squad with a bit of experience and help guide from the back. I think that'll probably do us a lot of favours.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've just covered most of the points. I think the position, should I say. The other one is Tom Eaton. Now, Tom Eaton, for me, I thought he was a superb goalkeeper. He's a superb goalkeeper, England international class, and you can see how good he is when he plays, because he does everything with a minimum of fuss. Now, Tom Eaton's had a bad injury. Now, at 34, is he?
Yeah.
It's a hard injury to come back from now.
Very true.
So then what you do, maybe it makes sense to keep Rayner on for another year and then just see how Tom Eaton develops, because we're going to need some experience in there anyway. And I think it all stems from there. Rayner, he had his mad moments, but generally he's calm, makes his saves, does his business and that. And that's what you want in that back four. You want calmness. I think another centre-half, just to keep them all on their toes a little bit, because then the young ones who are trying to get in the team, I'm playing my ways, but I've got to be better. The ones that are in the team now see someone come on the shoulder. Competition all over the place. Tyrone Mings, I think he's done well, but he almost feels like he's the daddy now, as he's going to play all the time. He's got to be put under pressure, which will push him. If he does even better there, then he'll probably cement his England place. But to do that, it's getting too easy for him here. He's getting away with too much. Yeah, keep him on his toes. Like midfield wise, like you say, if Jack goes, we need more creativity. We need more legs. Danny Drinkwater came in, God knows why, because they never played him and the kid wasn't fit enough. So you're never going to get value out of that. So we need someone with a bit of creativity in case Jack does go. But even if he doesn't, if Jack gets an injury, and then where do we go from there then? It's just a John McGinn show. And we need a couple of other options. And as you're right, centre forward, a goal scoring centre forward, and competition. So if Wesley's the centre forward, competition for him, and the two wide strikers have to be better. So we have to get better competition there, better quality. And so that way, if they stay to be in the first team, they've got to up their game. When I was a kid, we had the main two strikers was playing. Then there was me. There was the likes of just a guy called Frank McGrellis. There was Donald Murphy. There was Alan Green. Behind them, there was Mark Haitley. There's Tom English. Behind him, there's a kid called Clive Hayward. So we were always looking over our shoulder, because there's always someone coming to take your place. It has to be that way at Villa, because that's how you get better and better. Competition breeds success. You have to have competition.
Absolutely agreed. And I mean, even if Grealish does start, I think a bit more creativity to sort of add another option, because when we're on the attack, it's like, oh, just pass to Jack and hope he does something. If we have some other creative players in there, I think that'll do us a massive favour as well. And I mean, looking at individual players as well, like players like Saeed Benrahma, maybe Tammy or Batshuayi from Chelsea, who are the kinds of players that you would look out for and go, I'd really like to see him at Villa?
I think Tammy, not unfinished business, because he did the business there, but he's not signed a contract at Chelsea. So, and I think they're playing a little game with each other, because he's looking at the Drew situation. He's looking at the players they're bringing in, Timo Werner and all that, and he's thinking, hang on a minute. And he's in and around England's squad now. He needs to be playing regular. That could end up in nicely in Villa's favour, because he's got a little bit of affinity for the club. He scored some goals here. He's comfortable with the way Dean plays. So that could be one to keep an eye on. I think Benrahma knows Dean well. Dean knows Benrahma. I just think that I read an article saying that we went for Ben Rama, we went for Calvin Phillips, and we dropped out the hunt because the money was too expensive.
Yeah.
Tammy, they were talking at 50 million, dropped out the hunt for that. When we Batshuayi, we were after, we dropped out the hunt for that. Then I'm like, it appears everyone we went for, oh, that's too pricey, let's pull away. Which means that the idea was always going to be, forget the top shelf or the second shelf or third. Let's look at this level. We can afford that level, and maybe they'll develop. You can't look at that anymore. You've got to be looking to nick as much as you can from the top second shelf, as it were. You're not going to get your Timo Werners and all that, but you've got to be looking to get either the ones who are in some team, or say Brentford or whatever, or that you look at and think, yeah, he's quality, he's Premier League quality, or a young kid like a young Mason Mount in Chelsea reserves, bring him to Villa, let him develop, get games under his belt. You've got to be, your scouting has to be very, very good now, because you have to know what's out there. And I'm too sure whether Suso does. Our scouting network has to be so much better, because there are a lot of decent kids out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember an article from John Percy coming out. I don't remember if it was like this month or last month, but it said that whatever happens this season, we're going to do an urgent review of our scouting department. I mean, top to bottom, I think it has to change. Whether Suso goes or not, I just think having greater knowledge of the continent, especially because there are players in the continent like Milot Rashica. There's a good striker for, I think it's Union Berlin, called Sebastian Anderson, who's got a few goals. He might come in and play cover competition. You know, we can get players from the continent instead of just raiding the championship, where, you know, someone like Abir Eze, who's a fan favourite in terms of who we want to sign, he costs us like 30, 35 million. And you could spend the same on someone from the continent who's been playing in the Europa League or the Champions League. So I just think improving our scouting departments and buying right is what we have to do. And Smith said himself, we have to be really smart in the transfer market now. This is the season, if any, where we have to spend a lot on a few players who are going to be top quality for us, I think.
Totally agree. And one of my mates, and he was my manager, and now he's become one of my best mates, he's a guy called Natkins. Now, he was European scout at Aston Villa for the last 3-4 years. He left, and in the end, he's gone to, I think Steve Bruce sacked him. He sacked a load of them, and he's European scout at Wolves. Now, you don't get to be European scout at Wolves if you don't know what you're doing. He knows the whole network and that. Now, what he's got at Wolves or what Brentford have, we need to have that. So all the people we bring in now, their knowledge has to be vast. They have to know what's out there. They have to know all the young kids developing, what's in Man City's third team coming through and that, because they love a foreign kid as well. We have to be able to know, right, we need a left back, right, he can put Target under pressure, or he can take Target's place within 6 months. We have to know all of that. But it's almost like we're late to the party yet again. We used to sign players off looking on YouTube and that, apparently, a few years ago. Now we're actually trying to get a scouting network. We've got to be better. And like, to do that, you need knowledge. And knowledge costs you money. But if we're going to do it properly and set things in place, we need a proper scouting network, which know who the best kids are, the best young kids coming through, the ones we can nick, the experienced ones we can get, and just type. I heard David Moyes talk when he was leaving Everton, and he's at Everton, and they call it the Blue Room. You go into the Blue Room at Everton, and there was a list of players. There's lists and lists of players on this chalk room, and no one could go in there. It was only David Moyes and all the scouts, the very close knit people like. They go in, and you had players whose contracts are ending in 2-3 years' time, freedom of contract, his wages now, bits about his character and all that. Yeah. And so they were planning for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons. Yeah. So I'm listen. I think that's how it should be done.
Exactly.
That's how we're Aston Villa. We should be doing that. We should have a room where we're looking at players. We know in this kid, he's developing, he's doing really well, but in 3 years' time, he's at freedom of contract. Can we nick him before? Can he come and help us now? But we should know what's out there, know all his contact numbers, what he does, all the bits and bobs. I joined Sheffield Wednesday from when I was a kid from West Brom.
Yeah.
Howard Wilkinson, who was England coach at the time, like Howard Wilkinson, under 21 coach, he sat down and he was chatting to me about this and that, and he said, "Don't worry," he said. If I want to sign Gary Lineker, I sign Gary Lineker for a certain reason, because he can give me this. I sign you because you can give me this. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. We're chatting away. And he said, but then I've looked into your character, your background, I know about your family, I know this, I know that. And he started telling me things, and I was like, my Lord. It was almost like he'd had a private eye on me, which obviously did worry me a little bit. But that was in '86. And like, his attention to detail was frightening. Now, I just presumed everybody did the same sort of thing, because he bought me for 400 grand, which in them days was a lot of money. We are now spending 20, 15, 30 million pounds on players. That's Villa. Other players, other clubs are spending more. Yeah. So if you're spending that kind of money, surely you want to know everything about this kid. And mainly it's what his character's like, because that's the thing that will let you down. People say about the money ball and looking at the optics, and he does this, he does that, and he has so many touches of the ball. Like, I said to Ackers the other day, what's his character like when the game's going against him?
Yeah.
I saw the kid Jared Bowen play for Hereford, and he had a shocking game. But I saw him and I went, he's half decent. He had the worst game we've ever seen, but he kept hunting the ball, trying to get the ball, didn't shy away from it, made himself available, kept giving it away, but kept looking for the ball. Then he does a little thing, you think, yeah, he's something you could work with. That's the scouting eye. You can look at someone and say yes, and that's what we need as well. All the money ball, all the stats and everything's great. You also got to have someone with an eye, experienced eye, and Ackers or people like that. Older scouts now, but they know the game. You need that as well. We need the full range. We need all the stats, but we also need the human side of it as well. We need to know the characters, because we're developing players not just for Aston Villa, but you're developing men who, when their career's over, they're developing to be something as well. Like not be defined by being footballers. To do that, you've got to know the whole package.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. We have to have a more comprehensive scouting network in terms of across all of Europe, across the rest of the world, to be honest, because they have the top teams doing it. And we're Aston Villa, we have to be a top team. But as part of this recruitment, I mean, there's going to be some players that have to leave. Last summer, obviously, we didn't really have a squad, so not many had to leave. But who are some players that you'd be happy to see the back of going into next season?
I think that your biggest problem with this is that, and I heard this right early on last season, that when Dean was negotiating with players, or they were negotiating, because there'd be Dean and the team negotiating, they were shocked at the figures that were being thrown at them. And the players that signed obviously got the figures that were being thrown at them. So therefore, your problem now is I might go get rid of El Ghazi. You're going to need someone who's going to take him, but pay his wages, because he's got 3 years left of a 4-year deal. And say, for example, I'm pulling this out of the air. Say he's earning 50 grand a week. Now, no one is going to pay him that kind of money. So therefore, he's stuck at Aston Villa, because why would he take a pay cut? So therefore, you have a problem. So the ones we've got now, a lot of them you're kind of stuck with, because I can't see people turning around and going, right, because this team finished 4th bottom. Let me sign him. How much is he on? All of a sudden, you can get someone cheaper and better. So the biggest problem will be getting some of these out the door. So I mean, like I think, like I look at Nyland or even Kalinic and people like that. And you bring them in on loads of money, but they weren't suited to the English game. This should be known before they come in. Nyland did get better, still has a rick in him, but did get better. Also, you're looking at the likes of Al Mohammedi, who are getting on a little bit now. He's got to be looking more to be a squad player, because you expect Gilbert to strive forward even more next season. So you look at some of the fringe ones as well, and thinking, well, obviously Drinkwater go about. Baston's gone now. Keenan Davis, I still think there's a player in there. I think everything, all he's getting hold of it, bringing people into it. He's a nuisance. He did more in the first 5 minutes than Samatta had done.
Exactly.
And I just think that if we can just get him in areas to score goals, then even manufactured, he will get a few goals. At the minute, he's working hard, but he's in front of the goal, nothing. But the more you get in the box, the more you strike a goal, the more chance you got to finish it. Samatta, for me, it sounds horrible now, because when he came, he did ever so well. The first couple of games looked lively and that. But yesterday, he's playing against Ogbonna and Diop, who are monsters. They're quick, they're strong, they're powerful, they're great in the air. So you can't, if you send anything in the air, I think he won 3 headers, and he's done well to win them.
Yeah.
But you're going to play in a different way. You're going to have to move him a little bit. So he's trying to show for the ball. He's coming deeper. But anything goes down the sides, then they've got 5 yards on him, and they're quick. So straight away, you'd be thinking, hang on, I've got to get this off a situation where I can get the ball, because he couldn't affect the game. And I think he's 26, 27, is he?
He might be 28, to be honest.
Then he needs to learn quickly, because otherwise he's of no value to us. If we're going to be better now, we have to be bringing in better players than Samatta. Great goal in the cup final, but at a level from what he's shown so far, and hopefully pre-season's different, gets a pre-season under his belt, and he's flying. But everything I've seen so far since the cup final goal, none of it says to me that kid could be one. I'm looking at Keenan Davis. I'm thinking, if he scores goals, that kid's a monster. But he's a monster without the goals, because he can assist other people scoring goals. So he's always handy to have around. But if you're having Davis or Samatta, you'd have to take Davis all day. Samatta's not going to give you enough. El Ghazi's not going to give you enough. Trezeguet, I think the jury's out. I think he scored some very important goals the last few weeks. Look at his whole balance. Look at him over the whole season. Questions.
Big questions, and that's the thing. We can't, it isn't as easy as just, we have a player, let's sell him. It isn't like a computer game.
No.
These players have contracts, they have wages, they have permutations, they're being scouted by people who are looking at their character, for example, like we've just alluded to. So we can't just sell these players very easily. I mean, another one that I'd add on to there, Henry Lansbury. I'm not sure how long he's going to want to stay in the squad for. I wonder if, like, someone like obviously Carney Chukwuemeka, who signed the new deal recently, will he be closer to the senior squad? Will we be cutting Lansbury, who's on bigger wage because he was signed during the Steve Bruce big wage era? Will he make way? But then, as you say, who's going to pay his wages? We had Micah Richards and Ross McCormack at the club, two players who weren't good enough, but we couldn't sell them until we had to release them because their wages were too big. So the same problem is going to face Villa, but we can't let that get in the way of our spending, because what I worry we'll do is we won't be able to offload enough players, so we won't add enough quality to the squad. And then we're in the same predicament as last season.
Yeah. Well, the danger with all that is, and I think it happened by the time Brucey got there, we had a conglomeration of 3 or 4 managers, players at the club, because they'll come in and he'll bring 3 or 4 in, then he'll go, and then the 3 or 4 come in, and then you just get a mess. And so now we've got to got to be cute how we do it. So Dean will probably want to bring 2 in and maybe get a couple out, but he has to be careful how he does it, because you don't want to upset the balance of what I saw on the side of the pitch yesterday was the togetherness for some of them, and they all seemed to be bonded together. They wanted to, not be safe from relegation, but not go down. And there was a bond in there, and I saw the scenes from the dressing room. It looked like they're getting that feeling in the club, like, and so you don't want to ruin that too quickly. So you're gonna have to be very careful how you do it. And also, as you say, the problem is money. But the first thing we talked about was recruitment. It all comes back to recruitment. From now on, recruitment has to be so hot, because each one you make has to make a difference. Otherwise, you start going, you don't improve. That means you stand still, which means you go backwards because everyone's going past you. So you have to be very careful how you do this. But I look at the way he wants to work. I look at the things he wants to do. I hear the good things about how he wants to do things. I hear that they're trying to back him. And so it does all go well. It's just got to be careful, because if you've got players here who are not going to play and they're miserable buggers and they cause problems, then the whole thing becomes like a cancer again, which Villa had a few years ago. So he's got to be very cute how he does this. But the end game has to always be, right, this is the team I can see in my head with the players with ability. I can see this. We're here at the minute. I've got to get from here to there without, winning loads of games, but without upsetting too many on the way that could upset the whole balance of what we got. It's a very tricky thing. I mean, you got to be psychologist, man manager, got to win games as well. It's a hell of a job he's got on. But if he gets halfway near it, he'll have done a fantastic job. And if we're halfway, mid-table or even better, and he's got rid of a few, brought a couple in, and the style of the players improved, but we could defend as well, then we're well on the way to looking like the club that you saw as a kid, that I saw as a kid, and the club that we expect Aston Villa to be.
Agreed. And I think that one of the things that could help him, to be honest, in terms of getting this through is, I mean, this isn't something that's been publicised or anything. This isn't something that I know about. It's just something that I'd like to see. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Craig Shakespeare, recently sacked assistant manager at Watford. He's from the area. I think he's a Baggies fan. He's worked with Nigel Pearson. He's obviously managing the Champions League for Leicester. He was around that whole squad title. He was massive with Nigel Pearson. I think what's the harm in getting him in the coaching staff if he'd come along? He provide top level experience. Troy Deeney said he's the best coach he's ever worked with. He's supposed to be a really good coach. He's from the area. Mark Harrison, I'll know him from his time at Baggies as well, because obviously, as I say, he's from the area. And I just think wouldn't having a bit of extra experience, a bit of extra tactic, another cook in the kitchen, so to speak, and say maybe we should change this about the tactics. Maybe you should manage in this way. A bit of experience to help what is a very inexperienced coaching staff. Do you think that will go a long way next season, maybe, if that was a possibility?
I think it's a good shout. I mean, Alex Ferguson, I think he used to change his coach every 3 years, something like that, because he'd always say they need a new voice. They need to have some, get excited again. They need something different to keep them going. Even though his turnover, he'd always bring 2 or 3 in anyway to keep the thing changing. But they were winning stuff all the time. Craig Shakespeare, from what I've heard, is a very good coach. This is a lad that is a local lad as well. He knows the area. He knows the players. Dean knows him as well. And also I think Dean has to look at his own staff at times and think, well, can I freshen it up or whatever?
Yeah.
Not get rid of someone, but can add to it. The one thing I would say about that, I think I said a few months ago, Dean, Richard O'Kelly, they're roughly the same age. They've been around each other for a long time. The keeper has been there with Dean for a long time as well. John Terry's new to it. But sometimes it doesn't hurt to have an experienced fella in and around your camp, a very experienced fella, so a lot older than you. And I'm saying a redknapp, but I don't mean a redknapp, because before you know it, he's got your job. But someone who just doesn't want to be the man, but will assist Dean in his way. Just a voice someone can turn to every now and again. So
exactly.
How about that? And just he's no gain in it for him. Obviously, the club are looking after him in wages, whatever. But he can watch the game and just say, yeah, maybe if we do that. I mean, Wimbledon, when I was a kid, used to have someone, and it was like a 60-year-old geezer, and he'd just go and watch games. And then every now and again, he'd talk to Harry Bassett and say, oh, maybe you should do this and look at this, blah, blah, blah. Just give him a few little pointers every now and again, because as a manager, you get so caught up in it at the times. You want to win games, you got to do this, we'll sign him, we'll do this. You're so blinkered in that. Every now and again, someone's looking from afar, just to call ahead and just say, oh, have you thought about doing this?
Exactly.
Or you're not winning games because of this. Just something like that. And maybe Shakespeare could be the one. But I'm sure Dean would have thought about this now, because he's quite an intelligent fella. He would have thought about freshening it up or bringing a new body in just to get the players going again. Because the players, they've known Dean now for 18 months or whatever. They'll be, you don't ever want your voice to get tired. Like you want to freshen it up all the time. So he's probably looking at that anyway.
Yeah, and I hope that's the case. And I think if we get the recruitment right, if we're successful in offloading some really average players who we can replace with these players that we want to come in, these quality players with pace, strength, even a couple of experienced heads, then adding someone like Craig Shakespeare, someone with experience, someone who can just help guide Dean and be that agony aunt, so to speak, that person to turn to, that guiding hand. I think that'd be amazing. And if things go right, what is your general prediction for next season? I know it's very early. I know we've literally stayed up yesterday, but how do you foresee things going? What kind of things what are our targets for next season, really? Well,
as any manager and any club, has to be to improve on the last year, which obviously is a low bar now because of where we finished. My mate asked me today, he said, well, where do you think Villa will finish next year? And I went, I've no idea. Not until they've started buying players or selling players. Until this window, I mean, I just saw on Sky, I think it's 70 days. He said they've got the bar out ticking away now, so the Sky started already. So we've got 70 days to play with. So in 35, 40 days, we'll have a clearer picture of how this thing's going to look next year. But we know we need improvement. We need players. We need to offload a few, but we need to be better. And to be better, you have to bring in better players. The scouting has to be better. There's loads of departments have to improve, but the one improvement the fans have to see is improvement on the pitch. Now, as a team, in parts, I think we played okay, but we have been too naive at times. So we've got to improve in that aspect. So I just think you've got to be looking. I would have said mid-table, but I keep coming back to the Sheffield United thing and the Wolves thing now, and I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. If we do it right, then why wouldn't we be challenging? Why wouldn't we be about 8th or something like that? Why shouldn't we go for that? The only reason you don't go for these is because you sort of tell yourself you ain't capable of doing it.
Yeah.
I say, well, no, let's go for it. We know now with what this division is about. We know it's a brutal division if you make mistakes. We also know that we have players in part at times that can cause problems in this division. We just need to accentuate our positives and eliminate or work hard on the things that are negative for us. But that's easier said than done. But they've got all summer now. I mean, I wouldn't make a prediction yet, but I would say if we ain't finishing mid-table next season, at least, then there'll be problems here. And I'd like to think we could do better than that, because I honestly believe, apart from the top 6 or 7, it's quite an average league. The rest of them can beat each other. So Newcastle put together a run of results, and look where they finished. Crystal Palace managed to lose 8 on a bounce and still was fine. If that's the league that can do that, Chelsea, I don't know how many games they lost and how many goals they gave away, and still finished 4th or 3rd or whatever. That is not a fantastic league. It's a league that you capitalise on the mistakes or weakness of others and you stride on. We should be able to do that.
I agree, and I hope that next season we have the facilities to do that. And I think that's the first thing that's going to come in. It's going to be our recruitment over the next 3 weeks before pre-season starts. Who are we bringing in? Who are we adding to the squad? And I'm really excited to see who we bring in. But on that note of optimism, on that note of mid-table at the very least, it's very nice to think, isn't it? It's for a couple of years ago, I hope we go up, and now we're saying mid-table in the Premier League at least. So it's just a credit to the owners, credit to Purzo, and credit to Smith to be where we are. But it is on that note that we're going to be concluding this post-season review. So thanks very much for coming on, Gary. Really appreciate your thoughts. Make sure to follow him on Twitter in the bio. And thanks for coming on, mate.
No problem. Anytime. You take it easy.
Thank you, and we'll see you in another video soon. Bye-bye.
What I keep being tuned, could I buy all my